Hey, Julia Barzyk here from Wise Investigator. So we have made it to almost the end of the semester for most of you, spring semester of 2026. And we just got through a difficult year for research funding and the science and engineering enterprise more broadly. And we're looking at what this next year is going to bring, meaning FY2027. The first glimpse that we had of that was with the president's budget request that came out about a month ago. And not surprisingly, there are more cuts requested or recommended to our science agencies. Now, this is familiar because we went through this last year. And I am not going to provide a breakdown of that entire process. There are other people who do that. You can find them online on LinkedIn and elsewhere. And if you're interested in learning more of the details of how the appropriations process works, go to those folks for more guidance. But what I can tell you is that the request is just a starting point. So last year, the request was one thing, and then in the end, Congress worked out budget levels that were generally higher than what was requested. So now that people have been through that one time, you may be feeling a little bit less panic than you were this time last year and you saw those requested numbers. But based on what's happened over the last year, I don't think anyone is going to be feeling particularly encouraged. Okay, so with that aside, let's talk about what you can do, because what I'm about here at Wise Investigator and what we're about broadly at Wise Investigator is helping you achieve your goals in the short term, medium term, and long term. So let's talk a bit about the short term right now. So first of all, I do want to say that with this guidance, I definitely am not minimizing the impact of these changes that we've all experienced, but I do want to provide my guidance on how to move forward despite whatever is happening out there. Okay, so an important thing here is to stay informed broadly of the trends. Like, it's good to know that the president's budget request came out. It's good to look at those high level numbers. But if you're going to do that, then don't just stop there. You really need to be thinking about specific programs. What is happening to specific programs or agencies that might be very critical to me, especially if they're a relatively smaller agency. For example, something like you're getting a lot of research funding from NASA, and it's a very particular type of work that you do that's very highly funded by a relatively smaller funding agency. Okay. So an example here that I can give from my own experience and that ties into what's going on right now is that of the URI programs, meaning University Research Initiatives, or URI programs. That's a portfolio of programs from the Department of Defense. Now, within the URI portfolio is the MURI, M-U-R-I, or Multidisciplinary University Research Initiative, which are team-based awards for about $7 million that last about 5 years. Also, the DURIP, or D-U-R-I-P, Defense University Research Instrumentation Program, that is also part of the URI portfolio. So for people who are familiar with DoD funding, these are long-standing programs, and historically, all three of the service's basic research offices have taken part in those programs. Now, right now, there is uncertainty about the future of those programs. So this can sound shocking or disappointing or frustrating or all of the above when people hear about something that's been as stable as MURI, possibly, or MURI, DURIP, URI more broadly, also PCASE was under that, about that going away. But while, again, I don't want to minimize what that might mean, because I saw a lot of good work and important capacity built through, especially like DURIP, the instrumentation program, through those programs. I'm not going to get into that now. My point here is that both MURI and DURIP were programs that, even in the best of times when they were well funded, and maybe even there was going to be a bigger DURIP budget or more MURIs than the average year, even in those good times, MURI and DURIP were not programs that you would just apply to out of the blue, sight unseen. Sometimes people would come to me since I left the government and working independently and say, oh, I want to win a MURI. Well, you can't win a MURI unless there's are topics out that are related to your area of research. So there was already something in place that would prevent you from just necessarily going after a MURI. Similarly with DURIP, while certainly anyone could apply to DURIP, it would be difficult to get a DURIP funded if you didn't have some kind of affiliation already with a program. Now, not impossible, but it would be more challenging than if you were already working on some DoD related work and then you were saying, hey, I could augment what I'm doing here by getting this instrumentation and have a conversation with the program officer, etc. So while we can see the headline that might say, oh, this is going to be going away, and you may feel like, oh, this is going to be a lost opportunity, keep in mind that that program or that mechanism, that might have not been a path forward for you anyway. So again, it's not to minimize these things, but it's just to take the time to think a little bit more deeply about them, because because something's going away, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily changing anything for you right now. So we want to keep in mind that the uncertainty we're facing does not mean that there's not going to be any path forward. It's not that what you want to do is becoming impossible. It's just becoming more uncertain. And it was always a bit uncertain anyway, let's face it. So what can you do now? Well, one thing that you want to do is stay informed, again, at the high level, but don't go into a spiral of negativity, because that's not going to help you. It's not going to help your mental health. It's not going to help you move forward in a practical way. You want to make sure that you're focused on news that's related to specific programs or mechanisms that are very relevant for you now, not just broader headlines, even if they're at the agency level, like National Science Foundation, for example. So always, something you want to do always, and you want to continue to do this now, is to broaden your view of where your research might fit. So get back on grants.gov, get back on whatever software you have access to do funding opportunity searches. Ask ChatGPT, where could I get funded for this research? To see if something comes up that's not on your radar now that you can learn about using search engine search, etc., talking to other people so you can make sure you're understanding, are there more organizations out there that could be interested in what I'm doing than I'm currently aware of? So keep your boilerplate stuff handy, like your biosketch and all the other documents that you're going to need to submit when there is a call for proposals. And you also want to have some, like a research menu. I talk about what that is elsewhere, and things like one-pagers on hand so that you can act quickly, because you very well may be facing short turnaround opportunities. This is also a deja vu from last year, because people are really excited about the DoD Young Investigator programs that come out from the Navy and the Air Force. Last summer, they came out in the summer last year, and they were very short turnarounds, and they're still not posted now. So if they are posted this year, we very well may be looking at more short turnaround opportunities. So maintaining program officer connections is very important in this period, because as we saw recently in recent months, a lot of contact information for program managers has been removed from many web pages on NSF. Now, some program manager or say program director information is still on NSF, where the name of the person and their direct email address is provided, but elsewhere it is not. So as I've been saying all along, be connected with people ahead of time, and just to even make the connection and be connected with them elsewhere, like for example on LinkedIn, because then if contact information disappears, you already have that contact information that you can reach out to someone, even if their program is gone or has been restructured in some way. They're still going to know where the opportunity is, so they'll be able to point you towards the right direction, even if their program is gone. And I would say another thing that you want to be careful of is something called shiny object syndrome, which is when you're focused on one course of action and you make some progress on that, and then something catches your attention, like the shiny object, and pulls you off course. And this can be challenging to recognize when it's happening, because at the same time I'm saying this, I just said keep your eyes open for other opportunities, see what else is out there that could be a fit for you. So a really good example of this, though, that could be a bit of a shiny object is what's happened recently with this Genesis call, because from Department of Energy, right? Because we've had an opportunity, we became aware of a lot of money that's an opportunity for this phase 1 stuff. It's going to have a pretty short turnaround before you get a result and you get an answer, and you supposedly even get money within really a few months or a couple months, short turnaround again. So also, because there were so many topics under that, there were many PIs that felt like, oh, my research could fit here. And so that did generate a lot of excitement when we'd come through a difficult period, and then something like this comes up, and again, it looks like a lot of money, hey, it could fit my research, and we helped clients with some of those proposals. So I'm not saying that the Genesis opportunity is not something that should have been pursued, and those were due recently, so that should be off your desk for now. But we can anticipate that many applications were submitted for that, and we don't have a good idea of how many awards are going to be made. So while I wouldn't say don't apply for something like that, and again, we have clients who applied for that and we supported them in that process, be careful to not get sidetracked by too many of those types of opportunities when you don't know what your odds are. There is no history for that program. Just keep that in mind, and I'll stop that there, but be aware for that shiny object syndrome, that you don't get pulled too off track from that when there are more perhaps reliable, if that's still a word that we use now, opportunities that you could be pursuing kind of just by putting one foot in front of the other. So you really want to keep doing that. Again, keep putting one foot in front of the other. It's like a steady type pace that you want to keep up, and responding to the situation that changes around us, but again, keeping to move forward. So I would invite you to sign up for our weekly newsletter if that's not something that you're on already. Every week we have guidance that comes out talking about whether it's a current topic like what I'm talking about right now, which is the subject of my newsletter this week, to topics related to AI in proposal development and career guidance more broadly, that's a little bit broader than funding, but we really do stay with our mission of helping you win funding. But that research funding process is it involves a lot of different aspects, and they're related to your career development very generally. So if you're not already subscribed to that, I invite you to subscribe. We'll have a link to that below. So congratulations on getting close to the end of the semester. If you're not quite there already, let's prepare ourselves for a strong summer, a productive summer, and keep our eyes open for good opportunities, and just make sure that we keep moving forward during this uncertain time ahead.